Today, the Blue Jays start Dave Steve against the Yankees as they go after their 5th straight victory. The Oil Can tries to lead the Expos closer to the top of the National League East. And the agony and the ecstasy of two cities and their Olympic bids.
Sports Desk with Gino Retta.
The 1996 Summer Olympic Games have been awarded to Atlanta. We'll look at what went wrong with the Toronto bid a little later on in the show. And the Montreal Canadiens literally go to war with the Soviet Central Red Army. But first, the war for first in the American League East Division. The Jays made the deal they hope will be worth a couple of wins during the stretch drive. Lefty Bud Black arrived in Toronto on Tuesday morning. He'll take Frank Will's spot in the rotation. Black should see a couple of starts, but can't play in the postseason, obviously. The Jays just hope Black will help them to make it into the postseason play. Dave Steve took his 18-6 record to the mound for the Jays on Tuesday against the Yankees. Steve's got 4 starts left this season in his quest to become the franchise's first ever 20-game winner. And Bud Black, in a Blue Jay uniform, already wasted little time. Good news for Toronto because they could never beat him, so they traded for him. Dave Steve pitching for the Jays, I say. The Yankees get to him in the 5th with 2 out and a runner on second. Roberto Kelly singles to left. Hensley Mullins comes around to score, and it's 1-0 for the Yankees. But the Jays come right back in the bottom of the 5th inning. Runners on first and second for Greg Myers. He belts one deep to center field. This will go over the head of Roberto Kelly. George Bell chugs around third and comes in to score. And he ties the game at 1. Next batter is Manny Lee. He lifts a fly ball to medium center field, which is just deep enough for Rob Ducey, the speedster, to tag and score from third base, gives Toronto the 2-1 lead. Top of the 8th inning. Now Bud Black pitching for Toronto in relief of Steve, who went 7 strong innings. And then he gives up a solo homer to Kevin Moss to straightaway center field, his 19th of the year. Game's tied at 2, and there goes Steve's win number 19. Bottom of the 9th now, still 2 all tied, 2 on, 2 out for Rance Molnick. He's batting .353 off the bench, and he hits the first pitch he sees up the middle. Gruber scores, and the Blue Jays win it. They've done it again. The Blue Jays come from behind to win another one. They've now won 4 of their last 5 games in the bottom of the 9th inning. The Jays have won 5 games in a row. Bud Black, his first day was a Blue Jay. He gets a win. Most of those wins, of course, came with the Cleveland Indians. The only homer was Kevin Moss's 19th of the season. Toronto over New York, 3-2 the final score. So how was Boston doing? Well, they were playing Baltimore. Good news for the Red Sox. Prior to the game with Baltimore, Roger Clemens threw 80 pitches off the mound for the first time since being sidelined with a shoulder injury. Clemens is tentatively scheduled to pitch Sunday in New York versus the Yankees. Tom Bolton was scheduled to pitch against the O's and did a good job. Mike Devereaux caught looking, but Jose Mesa is equal to the challenge. Kevin Romine chases the high heater. No score through 3. In the 5th, Bolton has the Orioles mesmerized. David Segui strikes out. No hitter for Bolton through 5. Top of the 6th inning, Boston has a runner on second due to an Oriole error. Wade Boggs makes them pay a single. Jody Reed scores. 1-0 Boston. Last of the 7th inning, Bolton's no-no is gone. Mike Devereaux smacks it through the left side, scoring Cal Ripken, who had broken up the no-hit bid. And now the game is tied at 1. Great news for the Blue Jays. David Segui with some more great news for the Jays. Follows Devereaux by taking Bolton deep. The ball is bleacher bound and gone. A 3-run shot, 4-1 for the Orioles, and in the end, that was the final score. Baltimore over Boston, 4-1. Jose Mesa got the victory, evens his record at 2-2. The Red Sox have now lost 8 of their last 11 games. You know, September 1st, Boston had a 6.5-game lead over the Toronto Blue Jays. Now they're tied. Identical records, 81-68. Toronto and Boston tied for first place in the American League East. One more score to show you. It was Cleveland over Milwaukee by a score of 8-3 in a game that means very... Today, does Jimmy have the key for the Blue Jays to take over the lead in the American League East? In Chicago, it's bonds away for the Pirates in their quest for the National League East title. And the only winner in New York is the weather, as rain puts a damper on the Expos and Mets hopes.
Sports Desk with Gino Retta.
Canada versus the Netherlands in Davis Cup play this weekend. We've got a preview. Canadian universities begin to take golf a little bit more seriously. And a look at the Rookie of the Year race in the major leagues. But we begin with the race in the American League East. September 1st, Boston was leading Toronto by 6.5 games. September 19th, the Jays and the Red Sox tied for first at the start of the day. Boston has a reputation for choking down the stretch drive. They've lost 7 of their last 10 now. And as you can imagine, the tempers are running a little bit hot in the clubhouse. Tony Pena started throwing chairs around after their loss on Tuesday night, calling his team a bunch of quitters. Meanwhile, the Blue Jay clubhouse, rather festive. Jays on a 5-game winning streak, 4 of those 5 wins coming in the bottom of the 9th inning. Jimmy Key starting for the Jays against the Yankees on the night. He left the last game he started early because of a hamstring problem. No problem for Key in this game. He's facing Kevin Moss. Moss swings through. The Yanks go 3 up, 3 down. Bottom of the 4th inning, 2-0 Jays. Luis Sojo subbing in for the injured Manny Lee. Singles to center. Rob Ducey was on second, rounds third, scores the speedster. Makes it 3-0 Toronto. Still in the 4th. 2 men on for Junior Felix. Felix destroys this Tim Leary offering. A 3-run shot. His 13th. Jays led 6-0. Top of the 5th. Jays up 6-1. Hensley Mullins gets to Jimmy Key. Mullins crushes a shot to straightaway center. The homer's his 2nd of the year. New York gets on the board. That made it 6-1. Top of the 6th. 7-2 Toronto. Jim Larrett sends a Jim Acker pitch to deep left. Ball is launched. A 3-run shot. The Yanks cut the lead to 7-5. Jim Acker struggling for the Jays on the mound on the night. Top of the 7th, 7-5 Toronto. Acker gives up the single to Roberto Kelly. Alvaro Espinoza scores. The Yanks cut the deficit to 7-6. Acker gets the hook. In comes Dwayne Ward. Top of the 8th, pinch hitter Matt Noakes punches a single to left. The ball falls in front of Mark Whitten. Here's a great play by Gruber. Watch this. Whitten to Gruber. Gruber, the throw to the plate in time to get Jim Waylander trying to score. Great throw. Jays led 7-6. Bottom of the 9th, 2 out. Men on for Kevin Moss. Hanky catches. Moss looking. The Jays win it 7-6. The Jays on a tear. Jimmy the Key gets the victory. Goes to 11-7. The Jays have now won 6 straight games and have already won 82 games this season. That means they'll finish with a better than 500 record for the 8th straight season. They're the only major league team without a losing season in the last 8 years. Pretty impressive. Take a look how the Red Sox did. They're in Baltimore. Greg Harris on the hill with a 1-0 lead in the 3rd. Billy Ripken lines a single to center. Chris Hoyles comes around to score. That ties the score at 1. Still in the 3rd inning. Harris uncorks the wild pitch. Billy Ripken was on 3rd. Bad time to do it. The Orioles led 2-1 after 3, and the Blue Jays looking at a chance to move into 1st. But the Red Sox bounce back top of the 4th. Tony Pena slaps the base hit to center. Mike Greenwell comes in to score, and the game is tied at 2. Last of the 5th. 2 on for Big Sam Horn. Look at this shot go. It's gone. Just inside the foul pole, the Orioles take a 5-2 lead in the 5th inning. Top of the 6th, Mike Greenwell leads off with a shot to right off Anthony Telford. This is gone. 13 dinger of the year. The O's lead is cut down to 2. Could the Red Sox come back? No. Bottom of the 6th, Billy Ripken lays down the bunt. Wade Boggs goes to 3rd. Jody Reed can't make the play. Chris Hoyle gets up and scores. Baltimore goes up 6-3. Great news for the Blue Jays. Baltimore defeats Boston 8-4. Homers, Mike Greenwell is 13th. Sam Horn, his 13th. Kurt Schilling gets his 3rd save of the season. The Jays now lead the American League East by 1 game. When was the last time the Blue Jays were in 1st place? Way back on July the 30th, but they're in 1st place now. And it's much more important to be in 1st place now than it was to be in 1st last week. One more score to show you. It was Cleveland over Milwaukee by
7 straight losses and the division title to Detroit. Critics call the Blue Jays chokers.
I thought we saw that last year when we came back and won. I mean, every year I hear something about this ball club, and I guess as long as you're a contending club, you're going to hear those sort of things.
Blue Jays have finally shown the character that they developed last year under Cito Gaston, that they have heart, they have ability to come from behind, and they've eliminated those skeletons of the past that this team didn't have any character.
Boston skeletons may never be buried deep enough.
The Red Sox thing goes back 72 years, and they have won the East Division twice in 4 years, however, and they've been to the World Series 4 times since 1946. They just have trouble winning the last game.
Like the 1986 World Series and the grounder that got away, the 1-game playoff loss to the Yankees in '78, and in '74 when a 6-game lead vanished into playoff air.
Players come and go, and they can dismiss this as a non-issue, and it should be for them. It should be a non-issue. But for the fans who lived there for 72 years and had to live through '86 and live through '78 and live through '74 and all the others, the Red Sox are a continuous thing that stand for a continued series of disappointments.
The current disappointment is September. The month began with Boston leading the Jays by 6.5 games.
With 29 games left, we figured if we played 500 ball that they would have to play like 800 ball to catch us, and they've played about 900 ball since then.
I don't think I've ever seen a pennant race quite like this one. For simple reasons that the inconsistency of the two clubs that are battling for the division title. It's been a seesaw season.
Boston's recent inconsistency is the pitching rotation. When a sore shoulder sent Roger Clemens to the sideline, the Red Sox started to slide.
When he was here, we were 6.5 up. Now it's even.
When he's out there, they have 90, I think it's 80 or 90% of chance of winning the game. So when he's not in the game, I think that give us an edge.
We will not win it without Roger. There's no question about that.
If Clemens comes back healthy, he could make up to 3 starts, including one against Toronto at the end of September in Boston, where the Sox are 4-0 against the Jays this season.
I think they'll either beat us or we'll beat them. I don't think either team's going to collapse. I think just one is going to beat the other one, and that's the way it should be.
A word of warning here to be patient. Don't count on the title to be won in that Red Sox-Blue Jays series, because each team will still have 3 games to play. While Boston has the luxury of staying home to host the White Sox, the Blue Jays close out a 9-game road trip and possibly the season here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore.
The Orioles, I think, owe them a couple, so I think, you know, the Orioles and White Sox are going to have a lot to say with who wins this thing.
Well, I don't think we have to thinking about only one ball club. We have to thinking about every single ball club we play.
One thing they're not thinking about, the other teams that failed in other years before them. From rookie to veteran, there's a stretch to savor.
These are the best kind of games. These are the kind of games that you want to be in, and that you work hard so that you'll get an opportunity to be in.
Every at-bat's going to mean something. Every pitch thrown's going to mean something. It's what it's all about. This is what baseball's all about. If you don't like this, you don't like baseball.
So get ready, sports fans. Here it is, the Red Sox and the Blue Jays for a few more days. And when it's over, one club can break out the champagne, the other can hang another skeleton in the closet.
And some good news for the Red Sox on Thursday. Roger Clemens has been...
Cup Tennis, Sunday on TSN.
Today, he's back. Roger Clemens looks on from the dugout as Boston takes on the Yankees. David Wells on the mound as the Jays host the Indians. And Buck and the Expos look to keep closing in on the Bucks and the National League East.
Sports Desk with Chris Sedens and Teresa Herger.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sports Desk. Also coming up in the next half hour, we have CFL action from Edmonton. The Eskimos hosting the Ottawa Rough Riders. A look at the new attitude BC Lions of the CFL and day 1 action from the Davis Cup in Toronto. But first to baseball. We start with that race for first in the American League East. Teresa?
2 very hot baseball teams met at the Sky Dome Friday night. It was the Toronto Blue Jays, winners of 6 in a row, against the Cleveland Indians, who have won 8 out of their last 9. It was an important game for the Blue Jays. They were 1 game ahead of the Red Sox going into Friday night's contest, and they needed to keep the momentum going. John Farrell making his first start for Cleveland since June 24th, but he comes out strong here in the 2nd inning as he strikes out Fred McGriff, George Bell, and Rob Ducey in that order. No score after 2. David Wells pitching for Toronto, and Cleveland gets to him in the 3rd. Tom Brookins finds the right center field gap. The ball heads to the wall as he rounds the bases. And Brookins is still running and winds up on 3rd with a triple. The next batter is Felix Fermin. He chopped the grounder to 3rd. Gruber throws him out, but Brookins scores. 1-0 Cleveland. Bottom of the 6th now, still 1-0 with Mookie Wilson on 2nd. Kelly Gruber finds the gap in right center, and Wilson scores easily. Gruber rounds the bases, has a triple. Game tied at 1 apiece. And it stayed that way till the top of the 13th with Frank Wills on for Toronto. Sandy Alomar Jr. hits a shot to left. It's his 8th of the year. 2-1 Cleveland. Bottom of the 11th, Doug Jones on for Cleveland. 2 on, 2 out for Fred McGriff. Jones gets him to tap out to the mound, and that ends this ball game. The Indians win 2-1. Valdez gets the win. Doug Jones comes up with his 39th save of the year. And afterward, Frank Wills talked about the one that got away.
It was more or less a fastball that I wanted to be in on his hands to get him to set up the way I wanted to pitch him. I left it out over the middle, and I tipped my hat to Sandy. Sandy hit it, and it was my mistake, and he hit it.
I just went out there looking for a fastball, and I got it. And fortunately, fortunately, I got the pitch I was looking for. Basically, in that late innings, I'm not looking for anything, just fastball in. And I got it, and lucky me, I hit it.
I feel disappointed in myself that I made the mistake. But tomorrow's another game, and tomorrow's another day, and we'll be out and we'll be playing hard. It was a close game, and it could have went either way. Just one mistake, one pitch, and that was it.
Meanwhile, the Boston Red Sox have watched their 6.5-game lead in the American League East dwindle down to nothing. The Red Sox 1 game back of the Toronto Blue Jays, coming into action Friday night against the New York Yankees. Dana Kicker got the start for Boston. He's lost his last 3 decisions and was hammered pretty hard in all 3 of those. Pick up the action, top of the 6th. Game is scoreless. Wade Boggs bloops one to left off Chuck Carey. Hensley Mullins charges, tries to make the diving catch. Can't quite do it. Boggs ends up on 3rd with a 1-out triple. Next batter, Alice Burks, and he unloads on Chuck Carey. This one over the wall in left. Kiss it goodbye by a 2-run shot. Number 20 on the year for Burks. 2-0 Boston after 5.5. Top of the 7th, Tony Pena on 2nd. Carey strikes out Carlos Quintana, but the ball gets away from Jim Layrich. Pena tries to score, but he is an easy out for Carey at the plate to end the inning. Top of the 8th, Mike Greenwell hits one deep to right center field. It is gone, a 2-out solo shot, number 13 on the year for Greenwell, gives the Red Sox a 3-0 lead. Larry Anderson comes on to pitch the last 2 innings for Boston. Here he strikes out Kevin Maas to end the game. Anderson's first save since coming over from Houston. Red Sox down the Yankees 3-0. Dana Kicker and Larry Anderson held the Yankees to just 3 hits as they combined for the shutout. The Yankees have lost 7 in a row. Now a look at that East Division race in the American League. Blue Jays losers, Boston winners, so the Jays and Red Sox now tied for top spot in the American League East.
Tonight, the Blue Jays and Joe Morgan's Red Sox as close as ever atop the East. Buck Rogers in the Expos with a chance to gain some ground on the Pirates. And the BC Lions take on the Ticats in Hamilton.
Sports Desk is brought to you by Mazda. It just feels right. And by the revolutionary new Gillette Sensor. It will change the way you shave. Sports Desk with Chris Seatons and Teresa Herger.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sports Desk. Also coming up in the next half hour, Davis Cup qualifying action from the National Tennis Center in Toronto at York University. Plenty of college football, both Canadian and American, for you. But first, we will get to baseball and the thirst for first of the American League East. Teresa.
Well, Chris, the thirst continues. The Toronto Blue Jays went into this afternoon's game tied for first place with the White Sox. This weekend series against the Cleveland Indians is big. And the Jays found out last night that the Indians would not be an easy conquest. Cleveland has won 5 in a row and would like nothing more than to play the spoiler against the Jays. Todd Stottlemyre was on the hill for Toronto, trying to put the Jays alone in first again, but Cleveland gets to him in the 4th, 2 on, 2 out for Sandy Alomar Jr., and he rips a shot past Gruber. It goes into the corner, and by the time Ducey flags it down, Carlos Baerga and Chris James came around to score 2-0 Indians lead. The very next batter is Brooke Jacoby, and he bloops a single over the head of Tony Fernandez. Alomar scores 3-0 Cleveland. Bottom of the 4th now, Kelly Gruber at the plate. He's already tripled in this game. He now drills a shot to the left off of Jeff Shaw. And this ball is gone. It's his 29th of the year. The Jays trail 3-1. Top of the 6th now, and Cleveland starts hitting the long ball first. Candy Maldonado hits a smash off of Stottlemyre. It's his 21st 4-1 Indians. And the next batter is Chris James. He also takes Stottlemyre out of the yard. This ball is way out of here. Home run number 12, 5-1 Cleveland. Now bottom of the ninth, Cleveland up 5-2. Doug Jones on in relief, and he strikes out Wilson to end the game as the Jays drop 1/2 game behind Boston. A 5-2 final. Jeff Shaw gets the win and improves to 3-4 home runs for Candy Maldonado, Chris James, and Kelly Gruber. And the loss dropped the Jays a 1/2 game behind the Red Sox temporarily. With more on that, here's Chris.
Well, Teresa, it was raining in New York City this afternoon. That forced a 5-hour delay before the Yankees and the Red Sox could finally get their game started. It turned an afternoon game into a night game. And since the Blue Jays had lost their game, Boston carried a 1/2 game lead in the American League East Division, as Teresa just mentioned. A win over the Yankees would make that a full game. We'll pick up the action in this one in the top of the 5th inning. Yankees are up 1-0. Jody Reed hits one into the gap in left center field. Rookie Hensley Mullins can't make the play, goes off his glove. Tony Pena comes in to score. This game is now tied at 1. Top of the 6th inning. Ellis Burks takes Steve Atkins over the wall in left. Kiss this one goodbye. Solo shot for Burks. 21st of the year. 2-1 Bo Sox after 5.5. Bottom of 7. Runners in 1st and 3rd for Jesse Barfield, and he bounces one back to the mound. But Luis Rivera drops Larry Anderson's throw. Roberto Kelly comes in to score. We are tied at 2. The next batter, Matt Noakes, hits a fly ball to shallow left. Don Mattingly tries to score on the play, but watch Mike Greenwell's throw. It is in time a bit off the plate, though, but Pena does the job, tags him out. We go to the 8th, tied at 2. Bottom of the 8th, 2 on for Steve Sachs. He rips one to center field. Gets by Ellis Burks, goes all the way to the wall. Hensley Mullins and Randy Velarde both come in to count. Sachs has a triple. Yankees led 4-2 at that point. They go on to do the Blue Jays a big favor as they beat Boston 5-2. So, with Toronto's loss and Boston's loss, it means we are back in a tie for top spot in the American League East Division. And some bad news for the Boston Red Sox today. The ace of their pitching staff, Rocket Roger Clemens, won't start against the Yankees on Sunday as originally planned. Of course, Clemens has been out since September 4th with severe tendonitis in his shoulder. Team doctor Arthur Pappas says that him coming back too early with tendonitis could only make the tendonitis that much worse, and this has caused some people to speculate now that he might be gone for the rest of the season. Tom Bolton will get the start for the Red Sox. Instead, his record is 9-4.
Coming up on Sports Desk, drama. First of all, the Davis Cup. Canada makes it for the first time ever. Mookie Wilson delivers in the clutch again for the Toronto Blue Jays. And Kevin Butler helps add to a wild day in the National Football League.
Classic. It's not exciting. It definitely is. The Blue Jays and the Red Sox were tied heading into Sunday's play. And in both cities, they are saying exactly the same things, that their fates are in their own hands, and if they get hot, they can put the other guy away. The truth is, neither team, Toronto or Boston, appears capable of putting the other guy away, and having their fate in their own hands hasn't meant much so far. For instance, the Blue Jays had lost 2 straight against the Cleveland Indians and had looked very anemic doing so. Let's see if they look better. Dave Steve might only get this start and one other, so he's got to win both if he's going to win 20. He's got 18 right now. Top of the 2nd, he guns down Chris James. Bottom of the 3rd, the Tribe leading at 1-0. Kelly Gruber, simply put, carrying the Blue Jays in this month of September. He has been awesome. Gruber with his 30th home run of the year. The Blue Jays lead it by a score of 2-1. Moved now to the top of the 6th. Felix Fermin hits a grounder. Bad bounce for McGriff. Good bounce for Witten, but he can't grab a hold of it. That scores the run. The Indians lead 4-3. Bottom of the 10th after the Jays have tied it at 4. The Tribe have Colby Ward pitching. He walks the leadoff batter, Kenny Williams. And every announcer in the world's going, you can't walk the leadoff man. So after a sacrifice bunt, John Olerud draws the intentional walk. This one's not intentional, though. Mark Witten walks to load the bases. In from the bullpen comes Efren Valdez. Valdez faces Mookie Wilson. Tony says hit one to left field on the first pitch, and that's what he does. Mookie Wilson, like Gruber, playing outstanding baseball in September. Yes, Kenny Williams, you score the winning run, and the Blue Jays score a 5-4 10-inning victory over Cleveland. So the Jays at least take 1 out of 3 from the Indians. 1 home run in that one. It was Gruber with his 30th of the year. Now that one was over at about the same time that the Yankees and Red Sox were completing theirs. We are in New York, where Roger Clemens was in the dugout, not starting Sunday. He might not start again this year. They say he'll start Friday, but that's kind of iffy. Rick Cerrone with an RBI single off Tom Bolton. The replacement scores the run. Boston's 1-0 lead is now gone. It's a 3-1 lead for the Yankees. Bottom of the fifth, the Yankees add some more. Balboni with a fly ball. Ellis Brooks can't track it down. This is great news for the Jays. Sack scores. It's 4-1. Now into the seventh. Phil Plantier belts one to left field. But watch, Hensley Mullins. They call him Bam Bam. What he is bad on this play. Gets all twisted around. In comes Marshall. In comes Pena. It's 4-3. Now in the eighth, the Yankees are holding on 5-4. They had the runner on third and nobody out. After 2 strikeouts, Tony Pena grounds out. The Red Sox doing their best Blue Jay impersonation. The Yankees hold on with a 5-4 victory, so a pair of 5-4 games, one for the Jays, one for the Yanks, and you add it up, and the Jays have a 1-game lead on the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox have now lost 8 of their past 10. Here are the standings. Pretty simple. The Jays by 1 over Boston as they head for that showdown Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Boston.
TSN.
Coming up, the Blue Jays have a chance to add to their lead in the American League East. It's another case of results before sentiment as popular Al Bruno is bounced as the Ticats head man. And Big Ben looks to the future as his racing career is officially back on track.
Sports Desk with Paul Romanek and Gino Retta.
Hello there. A jam-packed half hour coming your way. We have, in addition to the above, NHL Hall of Fame news for you, some new inductees, Davis Cup tennis to tell you about. Not last year's Davis Cup, but in fact this year's Davis Cup. And we have more about that later. Also the plays of the week. But first up, while the Blue Jays play, the Red Sox try to sit back and loosen the turtlenecks, I guess, and stop the choke.
Exactly. Historically a problem with the Red Sox. The Blue Jays are on the road for the rest of the regular season. That should give the Red Sox the edge because they'll finish the season with 9 games at home. But the Jays don't seem to mind the road. As a matter of fact, their home and away records are almost identical. Boston had the night off while the Jays were in Milwaukee. The Brewers have been awful lately. They've only won 1 of their last 10 games, and things did not look good for the Brew crew early in this one. Jamie Navarro pitching for the Brewers. Top of the third. Jays up 1-0. Tony Fernandez takes off for second. B.J. Surhoff hits the bag with the throw. Manny Lee was on third. He scores. Fernandez goes to third. Jays led 2-0. Next batter, Kelly Gruber. He singles to left. Tony Fernandez scores. RBI number 113 for Gruber. 3-0 for Toronto. Top of the fifth now. 2 men on for George Bell. He has singled and doubled so far. He rips a shot to left. It hits the railing on top of the wall, stays in the park. Fernandez and Gruber score. Bell has a double. He's 3 for 3 at that point. Blue Jays up 5-0. Top of the sixth, Jays leading 5-1. Mark Whitten gets a hold of this one. It's gone. His second Major League homer. Toronto goes up 6-1 at that point. They go on to win this one by a final score of 9-5. Toronto over Milwaukee. Key to victory. Mark Whitten, his second homer of the season. Dale Swam, his first homer of the season. We'll check the standings in the American League East in a moment, but let me tell you, George Bell, his second career 5-for-5 night. He was on a tear. Now to Yankee Stadium. Baltimore visiting bases.
Coming up, things aren't so bright for the Jays with Bud on the mound. A loss by the newly clad Sox and an Oakland win spells clinch. And the punching preacher continues his bid towards regaining the heavyweight title.
Sports Desk with Paul Romanek and Gino Retta.
But first up, of course, this time of the year, it's got to be the American League East and a story of pitchers on this evening. Boston 6-12 since Roger Clemens went down, and the Jays hoping for big things from Bud Black.
And Paul, the Jays took a big chance trying to get Bud Black. Toronto a game and a half up on Boston. Victories from here on seem crucial. As a matter of fact, the Jays traded away 3 promising young pitchers for 2 wins. The 2 games that Bud Black will start down the stretch. You see, Bud Black can't play in the postseason, and he's a free agent next year, so Toronto may only get 2 starts out of him. Black got his first shot at proving himself on Tuesday night against the Brewers. Milwaukee on a 7-game losing streak, and the Blue Jays get off to a good start. Pick up the action, top of the second. Kenny Williams lines a hit just inside the bag at third. Greg Vaughn has troubles with it, and that gives Mark Whitten a chance to score, and the Jays go up 1-0. Still on the second, Tony Fernandez at the plate. He doubles down the left field line as well. Just fair. Williams comes in to score, and the Jays take a 2-0 lead. In the last of the fourth, Brew Crew gets to Bud Black in his debut as a starter. Robin Yount tomahawks this pitch. Forget it, it's bleacher bound. 17th of the season, a 2-run shot. All of a sudden, the game's tied at 2. The Jays leading 3-2 in the 6th. Yount rips a ball by Kelly Gruber. The ball goes down the left field line, gives Paul Molitor a chance to score from second, and it's 4-3 Milwaukee. And then a couple of bad calls hurt the Jays. Dave Parker hits a comebacker to the mound. Black throws back to second. Fernandez looks like he lays the tag on, but the umpire says safe at second. It proves costly because Vaughn also doubles down the left field line. Yount crosses the plate, and the Brewers take their first lead of the game. The next batter is B.J. Surhoff. Surhoff lifts a fly ball to Mookie Wilson. Wilson will come up throwing. Parker was on third. He tags. Parker's pretty slow. Borders up the line with the tag. Does he make the tag? May look like it there, but the umpire says safe. It's 5-3 Brewers. Last of the 8th, the Jays have pulled to within a run. 5-4 Milwaukee. Surhoff stands in with the bases loaded. He drills a shot off John Candelaria. It rolls all the way to the wall. The extra base hit clears the bags. Surhoff's triple gives Milwaukee an 8-4 lead. Cito Gaston gets furious. Some calls a little later on in the game. Cito finally gets thrown out. Then John Candelaria, the Candyman, didn't do real well, but he did get tossed with a nice little yelling match against Rick Reed. In the end, though, the Jays drop one 8-4 to the Milwaukee Brewers. Robin Yount, the only homer of the game, is 17th of the season. Bud Black gets a loss in his first starting appearance as a Blue Jay. Now to find out how the Red Sox did. A key game in terms of the Blue Jays. Greg Harris pitching for the Red Sox on the night. Indians get a run off him in the 3rd. Then in the 4th, Sandy Alomar Jr. This guy is so strong. Belts a run over the Green Monster in left. Number 9 for him, 2-0 Indians. Indians increase their lead to 3-0 before the Red Sox get to Greg Swindell. Tony Pena screams a 2-run homer into the screen above the Monster, cutting the lead to 3-2. But the Indians come right back. Brooke Jacoby at the plate. Bloops this shot at Ellis Burks. Burks can't get to it. Sandy Alomar scores when Burks bobbles it, and it's 4-2 the Indians. Harris gets the hook. In comes Larry Anderson. And right away, the Indians greet Anderson with this. Bloop single to right. Felix Fermin with the bloop single. Brooke Jacoby bowls over Tony Pena. Jacoby and the Indians are out of it, but Jacoby takes out a little bit of his frustrations and just goons Pena. 5-2 Indians. Greg Swindell pitching a fine game. He K's Ellis Burks in the 6th, the second time in the game that happened. And Cleveland hangs on to beat Boston by a score of 5-2. They do a Blue Jays a favor. Harris is only 1-4 in his last 5 starts. I say they did the Blue Jays a favor because Boston's loss, Toronto's loss combined takes Toronto's magic number from 8 down to 7. The Jays still with a 1.5 game lead on the Boston Red Sox. The Roger Clemens saga continues. The Red Sox starter has tendonitis problems in his pitching shoulder. He's examined daily, and the prognosis seems to change daily. At last word, he was supposed to be ready to pitch against the Jays on Friday night. Clemens threw in the afternoon, but could barely throw 60 feet on Tuesday afternoon. He was throwing from in front of the mound because most of the time he couldn't reach the plate. He only threw 30 to 35 pitches and basically just lobbed the ball. He was overheard telling the coach, Bill Fisher, that his arm is in bad pain. He may be gone for the year.
Well, in the American League West, a win by Oakland and a loss by Chicago would clinch it.
They put you in the driver's seat. Today, the race in the American League East isn't in the Jays' clutches quite yet. Grant Fuhr has his hearing with NHL President John Ziegler. And we'll show you a golf drive that really takes off. Sports Desk with Chris Sedens and Gino Retta.
Welcome to Sports Desk, everyone. Also coming up in the next half hour, we will follow the Hamilton Tiger Cats as they go on the prowl. Dale Howard-Chuck adjusts to life as a Buffalo Sabre, and we will update the status of Red Sox starting ace Roger Clemens. But first, to baseball, Milwaukee is the site. The Blue Jays against the Brewers.
Chris, the Red Sox have lost 11 of the last 14 games. The Jays have taken advantage to the point that they were a game and a half up at the start of the night. But, like a good prize fighter, Toronto needs to knock Boston out before they get their legs back. The final blow is always the most difficult. And if you wait too long, it may be too late. The Red Sox at home to the Indians, and as Chris mentioned, the Jays in Milwaukee to take on the Brewers. Kelly Gruber not in the ball game because he had the flu. In place of him, Brent Smolnick's at third base. Bottom of the first, no score. David Wells pitching for the Jays. Leadoff hitter, Paul Molitor. Bad start for Wells and the Jays. Solo shot to left. His 12th of the year, 1-0 Brewers. Bottom of the second now, and the Brewers add to their lead. Dale Swaim hits a fly ball to center field. B.J. Surhoff is on third. Mookie Wilson makes the catch. And really, the throw, no chance at all. 2-0 Milwaukee leads. The Jays have a great chance to tie the game in the third. Runners on second and third for Mookie Wilson with just one out. But Mookie pops up to shallow right field. Gannett makes the catch. Mark Whitten has to hold at third. 2 down now. Next batter, Tony Fernandez. And he grounds 4-3 for the putout. Brewers still led 2-0. It was still 2-0 in the bottom of the seventh. 2 out. Jim Gantner on second. Robin Yount singles to center. Gantner scores. And it's 3-0 Milwaukee. Bottom of the 8th inning, Milwaukee puts the game away. Already leading 5-0. Robin Yount with the bases loaded, hits a grounder to short. Tony Fernandez trying to make the throw, trips. Swaim scores. That makes it 6-0 Milwaukee. Ron Robinson pitched a gem for the crew. He pitched a complete game shutout. Here getting Greg Myers to fly out for the final out of the ball game. Milwaukee hangs on for the victory. They take 2 of 3 from the Jays. Win this one by a final score of 6-0. This was Robinson's second career shutout. Mahler, the only homer of the game, is 12th of the season. Now, what happened at Fenway? Tom Candiotti gets shellacked in the first inning by the Red Sox. With 1 run already across and 2 out, Tom Bernansky lines a single to left center. Ellis Burke scores. Mike Greenwell goes to third, and it's 2-0 for the Sox. The next batter, Tony Pena, and he delivers another 2-out single. Down the left field line, hits the wall. Greenwell scores. Red Sox bats are alive on this night. They're up 3-0. Still in the first. Luis Rivera bloops one to center. Alex Cole charging and traps it. No catch. 2 more runs score. 5-0 Red Sox after just 1 inning. Dana Kicker now trying to preserve that lead, and he gets some great defensive help. Watch Jody Reed. Jody Reed dives, snags this, has a presence of mind to give it to Rivera for the force out at second. To the 5th inning now, and the Red Sox add another run to the scoreboard. Mike Greenwell takes Candiotti deep to right field. Turner Ward, talk about a great effort. Up and over the wall. Great try, but it's a home run for Greenwell, 6-1 for the Red Sox at that point. Boston hung on to win it by a score of 7-2. Big victory for the Red Sox because the American League East standings now look like this. Boston just 1/2 game behind the Toronto Blue Jays. The Jays have tomorrow off. The Red Sox will travel to Detroit. The magic number for the Blue Jays now is down to 7. Tuesday, Roger Clemens threw in the bullpen at Fenway, but he couldn't reach the plate from the mound. He just didn't have the strength. Clemens was scheduled to throw against the Blue Jays on Friday, but Red Sox manager Joe Morgan announced that Clemens will start on Saturday instead. Not because Clemens' pitching shoulder was still sore, but more importantly because he wanted Clemens to be ready to start the first playoff game against Oakland. Morgan fairly confident, considering his team has been pretty awful lately.
Today, NHL President John Ziegler hands down his decision on the Grant Fuhr drug situation. The Red Sox go for a share of first place in the American League's East Division. And the Penguins get bad news regarding the Magnificent One. Sports Day.
First to baseball now, and the Boston Red Sox at Tiger Stadium in Detroit for a makeup game caused by the lockout at the beginning of the season. A win would move them into a tie with Toronto in the American League East Division, the top of the East Division race. The Jays are already in Boston, awaiting the outcome of this one and definitely cheering on the Detroit Tigers. Steve Searcy on the mound for the Tigers, and he shuts Boston down through the first 3 innings. But in the 4th, Red Sox load the bases. Mike Greenwell lines a double up the right field line. Carlos Quintana and Dwight Evans come in to score. 2-0 Sox. Next batter, Tom Bernansky. He belts one deep to left field. This one may go, but no, it won't go. Great catch by John Shelby at the wall. Only one score comes into count. The catch saved 2 runs. It's 3-0 Red Sox. Tom Bolton pitching this one for the Sox, tossing a shutout through 5 innings, but in the 6th, infield hit goes off the glove of Randy Kutcher, and that scores Cecil Fielder's 3-1. And that's not it for Cecil Fielder, because he takes Dennis Lamp deep to left field for home run number 49 on the season. That cuts the lead to 3-2. But in the 9th inning, enter Jeff Reardon. He faces a man on and 2 out, but some high heat. Strikes out Lloyd Mosby as the Sox win it 3-2 and move into a deadlock with the Jays atop the American League East Division. Tom Bolton getting the win. Searcy takes the loss. So that American League East Division race looks like this. Boston now tied for top spot with Toronto. They open a key series, which you can see live on TSN Friday night from Fenway Park. We'll have it for you at 7:30 Eastern Time.